sad day, but it's also a really, really, really good day as well. This is the Honda Civic Type R Black Edition, and it marks the end of the road for the FK2 Type R, one of the best hot hatchbacks ever made. Production of the FK2 has stopped, ready for production of the FK8, which comes this summer. And that just has more of everything really, more power, more aero, just more performance generally in everything it does. Before production stopped though, Honda decided that they'd give the last 100 cars a special name and they'd sell them in the UK only. And they called it, rather sinisterly, the Black Edition. Now there are only 100 made out of 4,500 FK2 Type Rs that were delivered to the UK and to Europe. So you're unlikely to see one on the road. This will be quite a rare little car. Now mechanically it's exactly the same as every other FK2 Type R, more of which I'll get onto in a second, but cosmetically it's something a little bit different. Now as the name suggests, all 100 Black Edition Type Rs will be finished in black, and what the black does is it just highlights some of the red details that have always been on the Type R, like the red Honda badge, the red Brembo brake calipers, the red kind of highlighting that's on the front splitter and the rear diffuser. What the Black Edition gets that none of the other FK2 Type Rs had is the red rear wing end plates. Now as usual, everything on the interior is red and black, but they've just changed the balance of red and black slightly. So on the seats, for example, whereas some of these side panels used to be red, they're now black, so it's not quite as red and in your face as it was before. And you still get the same red leather details on the steering wheel, the same red kind of notch at the top of the wheel to let you know where the centre of the wheel is. And you get this lovely metallic gear lever as well. The real change in here, aside from those little panels though, is the fact that around the air vents, that's now a kind of matte, silvery red colour instead of just silver like it used to be. Everything else though is exactly the same. And these seats, I mean, these seats are some of the best seats I think you can get in any car, not just like a Honda. These are so good, they're so well bolstered. You're not going anywhere in these seats, trust me, you're really not going anywhere. Now at the beginning I said it was both a sad day and a very good day. The reason it's a sad day is because, well, this is one of the last FK2 Type Rs, one of the best cars I've ever driven, and definitely one of the best front-wheel drive cars that's ever been made. So, of course I'm going to be sad. Yes, even when it was launched, cars like the Focus RS and Golf R with all-wheel drive, they felt slightly faster off the line and perhaps in a straight line depending on the conditions. And as well, like the Golf R, you get that with a double-clutch gearbox, so it's naturally going to be a little bit faster. But in terms of excitement, in terms of fun, the gearbox, the steering, the differential, the brakes are beautiful, and the engine is just all-consuming. It's an enthusiast dream, and I love it. But on the flip side, I'm getting to drive the FK2 again, and one of the last FK2s ever made, and that is very, very exciting. Now mechanically, it's exactly the same as every other FK2 Type R. It's got a 2-litre turbocharged VTEC engine with 306 brake horsepower and 295 foot-pounds of torque. And all of that power and torque goes to the front wheels via a limited slip differential, a Torsen limited slip differential. 0 to 60 takes 5.7 seconds and the top speed is 167 miles an hour. All of that in a Honda Civic. It's just, I mean, it's just ludicrous. There's so much torque low down that when you put your foot down, if you're not ready for it, if you haven't kind of braced yourself, perhaps you've never been in one of these cars before, it's just savage. Like, you just do not expect that torque to hit you in the back the way it does. And it just keeps on pulling. Normally turbocharged engines, you kind of expect them to, you know, have a lot of torque low down and run out at the top end. But as this powers up through the rev range, I mean, the rev limiter is what, 7,000 RPM? It doesn't feel like it slows down. The torque goes, but it's just filled in with power. 306 brake horsepower, and it just keeps pulling. It's a relentless machine down the road. Second gear, 15 miles an hour, damp surface. You'd never get bored of this car. You just wouldn't get bored of that acceleration. It's just Now, people used to say that anything more than 200 brake horsepower in a front-wheel drive car, well, the car just wouldn't be able to deal with it. But I promise you now that this can absolutely get its power down to the road. Granted, it's a little bit difficult to get it off the line perfectly. I found doing hard launches a little bit tricky. But in terms of torque steer, something that cars normally with more than 200 brake horsepower going through the front wheels have struggled with, I think that was the main thing that, you know, cars 10 years ago or something would really struggle with. This car doesn't have a lot of torque steer at all, and that's mainly down to the diff. Whilst on the subject of the tyres and the diff, let's talk about the way it drives. This car can dance. It really can. It's got super sticky Continental tyres, and you would have to be going at such a insane speed to lose this car on the road. You'd really have to be doing something quite stupid to lose it. The front end just bites, like no matter where you want it to go, it just bites. And if you trail the brakes into a corner, the rear end just goes slightly lighter, pushes that weight further forward, and you get even more grip from the front tyres. It just eats up any road you present it with. It's just ridiculous. And on the way out of a corner as well, the diff can just find grip where you think there shouldn't be grip. Like, you'll accelerate and you can feel the diff working and pulling and finding and clawing at the road, and just shoots you off into the next corner. The steering is stunning. It's beautifully accurate. It's quite quick actually. You've got to be aware, because small movements at high speed, they you know, you do get a movement at the wheel, but it's just lovely weighted, and you can feel, you know, when the tyres are losing grip or whatever, you can just, there's information coming back through the wheel. The brakes are stunning. They're from Brembo, and you get ventilated and drilled discs at the front and solid discs at the rear, and they're just pretty beastly, if I'm honest. There's a tiny bit of dead travel right at the top of the brake pedal, which is something I didn't notice the last time I'd driven it. I think because I just got in it and was so excited. But there's probably a few things that I'm now noticing that I didn't notice before. And as well, the brake pedal is actually perhaps a little bit too far away from the throttle pedal, so heel and toe perhaps isn't as easy as I would like it to be. But the brakes themselves, once you get past that tiny little bit of dead travel at the top of the pedal, there's some lovely feel through the brake pedal, and the brakes are really powerful. I think the best road car brakes I've ever tried has been like a hot hatch, were the Alcon brakes in the 308 GTI by Peugeot Sport. Those brakes are insane. And I think the brakes on this, they're almost at the same level. Not quite, because the ones on the Peugeot are huge, and very powerful, but these are very close, and they've just got some lovely feels to them as well. The gearbox is a 6-speed manual. There was never an automatic option for the Type R, and that is a very good thing. And it's a lovely gearbox to use. The thrower is quite short, not the shortest gearbox on the market by any means, but it's very accurate. You can place and feel the gears very easily. And as well, you've got this lovely metallic gear lever that when the car gets hotter and the gearbox warms up, the top of the lever, if it's cold when you first get in it, perhaps in the morning after it's been, you know, just sat outside your house for the night, the gear lever itself starts to warm up. Now, the suspension, as you would expect in a car like this, is very stiff, but it just composes itself really quickly whenever you go over a bump. Might be a little bit bumpy to live with, but when you're going out for a drive, you want that control, you want that feedback through the chassis, and that's exactly what you get in this car. You go over a bump, it just deals with it and takes it, and then you're on to the next bit of the road. And then there's a button that says plus R, and it engages plus R mode, which sounds very sinister, but actually it does make a difference to how it drives. The dampers, the adaptive dampers, get stiffer by about 30%. The throttle response becomes that little bit more immediate. So, you know, if you were taking this to a track day or going around the Nürburgring, well, that's the mode you'd have it in. And as well, the traction control just eases off a little bit. It's a bit more relaxed, gives you a bit more movement in the car. Push it, and it just gets that little bit more extreme. And one thing that you also get is a G meter and a 0 to 60 timer. Anyway, this is my fond, loving goodbye to the FK2 Type R. I will miss it. It is one of the best cars in my short motoring journalism career that I've driven. It is truly, truly brilliant. And it'll be one of the cars I think people will look back on in the future and just think, wow, do you remember when Honda did that? That was something special. And I'm going to miss it. The new Type R, the FK8, it has really got to be something really, really extreme to be as good as this or better than. To better that this car is a big, big challenge. So it'll be exciting to see what they come up with.